Excellent. Right. Welcome to the introduction to Autodesk Infrastructure Design Suite. This webinar will take about an hour. It may be slightly less than that. The agenda for today is we're going to tell you, or I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and our company, Graitec, because not all of you are customers of ours. Then I'm going to talk very briefly about the Infrastructure Design Suite because it comes in various flavours, and I'll just show you what that really means. And we're going to concentrate today on Infraworks, and this is an introduction to Infraworks. One of the main things that we need to consider is data, so we're going to have a look at the data. And I'll apologise in advance to international viewers. I am going to concentrate on UK data sources. But if you have any queries regarding any of your localized stuff, then send me an email afterwards and we'll have a look at that. Unfortunately, I'm on my own today, so that means I'm not going to be able to be looking at questions, etc. I'll have a brief look every now and then, but I won't be able to answer them. What I'll do is, we've got your contact details, and if anybody has any questions that they ask, you can either email me or I'll email you. If I'll pick them up from the box here and email you the answers. Okay, once we've talked about data, then we're just going to go dive straight in and have a look at the software. So myself, Ian Robinson, I'm the infrastructure technical specialist, or the infrastructure consultant. I'm located in the UK, in the north of England. I cover the whole of United Kingdom. There's my contact details and our web address. I'll leave you all the relevant links on a slide at the end as well, so you'll be able to see, you'll be able to write them down. And a little bit about Graitec. So we're an international Autodesk authorised reseller. We've got over 30 years experience in the business, and we're one of the biggest worldwide Autodesk partners with over 330 employees. 180 of which are highly skilled engineers that do R&D and help customers. In the UK alone, we've got over 70 staff across 5 locations. These are our locations. We've got a large presence in Europe, as you can see, but we've also got offices in North America and India as well. The infrastructure design suite comes in 3 flavours. So there is a standard, a premium and an ultimate. The standard one is basically AutoCAD and AutoCAD map, and it comes with Navisworks simulator and raster design. So basically, if you need to do any kind of mappy stuff or raster stuff, then the standard one's pretty much okay for you. The premium one is what I'm going to be concentrating on today, the premium and the ultimate. And this is to do with the infrastructure design suite with Civil 3D. That's the main difference, and Infraworks. In addition to that, if you go for the ultimate, you get Navisworks Manage, Autodesk Revit and Robot Structural Analysis as well. So what does that really mean? So if we have a look at the kind of workflow that you guys work with. So right at the beginning of your project, you maybe need to have a look at constraints, and AutoCAD Map's really good for doing that. And then you'll go into your design process, which is AutoCAD Civil 3D in our case. Maybe you'll have Navisworks Manage for managing the projects. And if you want to sell your jobs afterwards, maybe you go through Autodesk 3ds Max Design. There's some other products that kind of sit around there. So point clouds are very relevant these days, and we're seeing a lot more of that happening. And Autodesk Recap is ideal for working with your point clouds. Raster design, if you've got rasters and you need to vectorize them, that's quite useful. Where Infraworks sits is pretty much there, somewhere in between kind of map and Civil 3D. So it'll work with a lot of geospatial data, it'll bring it all, aggregate it all together, do some basic analysis of the land, etc., and also of the features. And it'll also do conceptual design, ready to go into your actual design package, Civil 3D. So you can bring in your data, do your conceptual stuff, and then get put that model straight into your Civil 3D package and do the design. What it's also good at though is at the back end. So once you've done your real design in Civil 3D, you can take that model and sit it straight back into Infraworks, which allows you to share it a lot easier, and it'll do a lot of the visualizations and storyboarding. We're going to do that in the next session, and we'll talk about that later. Now, we're not going to be talking about BIM today. It's not a webinar about BIM, but you'll see when you look at Infraworks that it's a perfect BIM application, allowing you to plan, create, manage and share your designs a lot faster. So Infraworks, there are two flavours of Infraworks. There's Infraworks, which comes with the design suite, and then there is Infraworks 360, so let's not get them confused. And the 360 model, you can have a look at, you can buy it as a companion product, and what that means is you can get it really, really cheap, to be honest. You need to ask your account manager about how you can get 360. There's a web page on the Autodesk website, and I'll leave that address on right at the end so that you can copy it down, and that gives you the full details of the differences between the two products. But basically, both products do early stage design, and there's some really useful analysis and visualization, so you can plan, view and investigate constraints, and then you can do some design options. Then you take the model into your design package and do the actual design like I showed before. Once you're happy with it, Infraworks is really good for doing the visualizations and selling it internally or to stakeholders or to the public. What 360 will also allow you to do is it'll allow you to collaborate your design using Autodesk 360. This means that other people in the organization can see the same model that you have. They can give instant feedback to you. You can also publish the model in the cloud, allowing other people to download, or so you won't have this problem of emailing these large files. Not that you could even email some of these files. They're, they're gigabyte big these files. They're not little. You can also access it through a browser or on the mobile as well. The next big difference is that Infraworks 360 is a platform. It's a platform for other tools. Currently, there are modules for roadway design, bridge design and drainage design, and there's going to be a lot more, so they're building up on these extra tools. What does that really mean for you? Well, it means that you only need to buy the tools that you need to do your job. So there's a lot of people involved in the type of projects that we do, and simplifying the way in which we deliver the software is really, really important. We're all in love with our mobile phones, aren't we, for example? And the way in which the software is delivered to them, well, most of us are. I know a few people who are not quite as happy in it. We have no two phones alike, don't we? Well, these are all just apps, and we install the apps we need, that we want in our mobile phones, and our design software doesn't really need to be any different to that. Infraworks is actually the start of this. You just install the tools that you need to do your job. It makes the software faster, cleaner and an awful lot easier to use. Okay, so it's all about the data really. So I'm going to talk a lot about data today. I'm going to talk about what data you can get, and probably a more important question, what do you need? Sometimes simple is really best, and it's like your CAD drawing. It's just about understanding and passing of information. John Snow, this is the famous John Snow map. If you've got any GISs out there, you'll enjoy that. He didn't need fancy graphics or anything clever to find the outbreak, the source of the cholera outbreak. What he did need, though, is clear and concise information. We can get an awful lot of that these days. DEFRA, Countryside for Wales, the National Grid Environment Agency, they're just some of the main ones that I use. Scottish Government publish data through data.gov.uk. Northern Ireland through Land and Property Services. So if I've got anybody here from Northern Ireland, you need to contact them for any data. I'm not actually sure if they do any free data though. You can certainly ask them. Okay, so they're the sort of data sets that I'll be having a look at today. So let's dive straight in and have a look at the software. Let me just check my panel. Okay, yeah, we're all okay. So we'll go straight in and we'll open up Infraworks 360. You can see I'm opening it from scratch because what I'm going to do today is we're going to start with nothing and build up a model using free data. I'll just give it a minute to load up. If you've never seen Infraworks before, it's a database package. So it runs on SQLite, which is a shareable data set. Okay, so let's have a look at, open it up. In this window here, you've got all your models, and these models can be either local models or they can be in the cloud. So you can keep just the model on your computer that you need for the job that you're doing. Everything else can be stored on the Autodesk computers, and that saves an awful lot of space. And when you need it, download yours. It'll also allow you to collaborate a lot better as well. We'll go through in more detail about how you collaborate in the next session. So let's start with our interface. The first thing when it comes to downloading data is kind of knowing whereabouts you are. So in the UK we use the British National Grid, which is available from the OS. And some very nice person has given us all the data sets for showing where the grids are from the OS, and they've built all this data and made it into nice easy shapefiles, Esri shapefiles, and allows us to view these in AutoCAD Civil 3D or Map 3D, not in AutoCAD though, because you need the geospatial engine for that. If I just turn on the map space here, you can see we've got all the grids, 1 meter, 5 meter, 10 meter, all the way up to 100 meter grids. So I now know which grid I'm looking at. Where we're going to be working is down here in Exeter. And if I zoom in, you can see SX. There's Exeter. It's right on the corner. It's annoying. So the tile I want is SX99. Can you see there? So that's quite useful. So we can get all this data from the OS. And places that we will start with is the Ordnance Survey open data. So if you go there, I'll give you the links later on, you can see we can get boundary lines, so that's going to give you all your boundaries for local authorities, country boundaries, it'll give you the coast boundary, right the way down to ward boundaries. Code point is all the postcodes, but don't think that's great, it's all the polygons showing what's inside each postcode. It's just points on a grid, which is well, actually it's not on a grid, it's from the path file, which is on a grid. But these are just points showing you the postcode centroid, if you like. There's meridian mini scale, which is large scale, so it's a map of the whole of the UK, and then you can get right the way down. Probably vector map district is one of the better ones. Street view is the most detailed, so that will, it's just an image, it's just well, I'll show you actually. Street view, let's just pick one. It's just an image, find one with buildings in, there we go. But it will show you where all the houses are, each individual houses, but you'll see it doesn't show any boundary information, the gardens and things like that. So that's the OS open data. Other data sets that we can look at is we can look at DEFRA. So DEFRA publish all their data on data.gov.uk now, and that gives you things like English heritage. If you want to know what land classification it is for the land that you're working with, then the agricultural land classification data set is there. You can also get things like your natural areas, sites of special scientific interest and special protection areas. So areas you want to avoid really. So we can get all that data and just throw it at the model, and then we can see it and make sure that we're working within our constraints. If you work in Wales, countryside of Wales do a very similar one. You can see there they've got the SSSIs, special protection areas, etc. So they've got their own version as well. So what I've done is rather than going through all of these and spending time finding the right data sets, I've just cut them down into the data sets that we're going to be working with today. So we'll start with the Ordnance Survey, and what we'll do is we'll put a surface in. And the one I want to work with is an ASC file for SX99, and all you do is drag and drop it. Simple as that. You get this window up which just confirms, it has a look at the data file first and says, okay, what grid is it on? If your data doesn't specify which coordinate system it is, then you can pick it from a list, or you can go and pick it from the full list, choosing which coordinate system, and there's every coordinate system you'll ever need and more there. We'll stick on the British National Grid. There's no other options in there. You can, some of the OS data, when there's a zero value, it drops to minus 999.9999. So you can, where there's a null value, you can say that is a null value and it won't build the model. But generally, you just hit close and refresh. And there's our surface. Okay. Now this is free data, so don't expect that it's going to be the highest quality. It's a 50-meter grid, so each point is relatively accurate at 50 meters, and obviously there's a lot can happen in 50 meters. If you go to the OS and buy the data, you can get it down to a 5-meter grid. And then of course you're going to need to put a survey in at a later date, and we'll have a look at putting surveys in, a workflow for doing that at another time. What can we do with this surface? Well, you can do some very basic analysis. So if I go to my analysis tab here, we can do some very simple terrain themes, and we'll just put some height data in there. We can do it from level, or aspect, or slope. So show me where all the slopey bits are, or the too steep areas. So working with things like solar farms, you want it at a certain gradient, you want to find the land that does that. Or if you're doing solar panels on house roofs or stuff like that, you might want to look at the aspects as well, that sort of thing. And we can use a palette. So if I just use the national map palette there, and we can see the data a lot easier. Okay, I'll turn that off because I'm going to do something else with it. So another product with the Ordnance Survey is vector map. So if I go to my SQL back there, we've got vector map district, and they do. If you buy the data, you can get vector map local, which is a higher res one. But vector map district is quite useful, and you can download it as either vector or raster, which is very confusing. So you can get vector map district in a raster format. I know that's confusing, but it's worth having both. So if I just drag the raster format of it on, and just let go, it knows where it is. It knows it's on the national grid, so I'll just click close and refresh, and it will drape that directly onto my surface. Okay, I can still add a terrain theme, or I can have the image. So we've got buildings in here, but they're not down to individual buildings, they're kind of building blocks. There's no obviously boundaries, but you know, it's a good start, and I think as a kind of backdrop to your model, I think that's an excellent start. Let's carry on adding some more stuff. So maybe we want to add in them buildings so we can get some kind of 3D models. So again, this is just vector map district, and these are five of the surfaces that we're going to work with. There's actually, yeah, these are all 5 of them. There's all sorts of different ones in there. So here's our building. So this is the first time we're going to have to change something here. So when you add in a vector model, the software doesn't know what it is because there's no data attached to it saying this is a building. Maybe in the future they'll start doing that so that when we bring them into our models, that they will automatically understand that. But as we speak right now, that isn't the case. So we just need to tell it it's a building. And then we can do all sorts of stuff. Again, if you get the Ordnance Survey master map, there's also height data coming in with that now. So you could actually set the roof height automatically by data. You can add in things like descriptions. You can add in different fascias onto them as well. The next thing we need to do is just set the geolocation. I'm just going to leave it pretty blank. Again, this is just backdrop stuff. The geolocation, just check that it's on the British National Grid, which it is. And then we go to our source, because here we can tell it to drape or not drape. And we want to drape them, don't we? We want them on the surface. Vector map district is kind of national. It's a huge, so you get it, the whole of the SX, for example, so it's a large area set. I've cut it down already, but if you haven't cut it down, you can clip it here. So even though it's a larger data set, it will clip it into a smaller data set there. We can add tooltips in, and we can go into the table and scale things and change stuff. We'll do that later on. Okay, so we'll just bring them in as they are, draping them on the surface. So we've got a little bit of context now in 3 dimensions. Okay. Let's keep going. What else should we add? We've got roads. Let's stick roads on there. We'll just bung them in. Again, just need to tell the software that it's a road that you're bringing in. Now we can start adding some clever stuff, because there is a lot of data that comes with roads. So for example, we could get our description to match the Ordnance Survey classification. So our description of our road will be it's a motorway, it's an A road, it's a B road, stuff like that. So classification. And we can also style it by that classification as well. So you can go in and just say I want all my roads to be styled in a particular way. Or we can say, no, I will style the road by classifications. We'll need to run that style later on though. Again, check that it's on the National Grid, it is. And then we need to drape it, otherwise it'll just lay everything on at 0. Okay, and close and refresh. Okay, so that's now brought roads in as well. Let me just go to the M5 here. You can see that it's just brought a white line in at the moment. What we need to do is we need to go and run our styles. So we have our style rules here. Click on here. Go and find our roads. There they are. And these are our style rules that I set up earlier. Basically all I did was, if I go in and show you it, I went in and I said, look, if the description equals motorway collapsed dual carriageway, make it look like that. Simple as that. That's all it was. Very, very straightforward. So if we run these rules, we should see the M5 update itself into a 3-lane motorway, which it has done beautifully. Okay, anything else in this model that's relevant? Yeah, I would suggest that we could put the railway track on. All we need to do is tell it that it's a railway. There it is, a railway. Not going to bother with any extra data on this, just check it's on the National Grid and drape it on the surface. Close and refresh. By the way, if you've got Infraworks and you hit OK, it will appear in the data sources, but it won't be configured. And I'll do it just to show you what happens, because it doesn't matter. Anything you do here, even if you do it wrong, if you forget to drape it and they all land at 0, it doesn't matter. You just double click it in here, change anything you need to change, whether it be scaling or level offsets or draping, and then hit close and refresh. So you can go back and do all of these things. There's no saving required, so you don't need to save anything. Everything runs on a database. So that database is constantly being updated. So that's brought our railways in. You can see it's getting quite a big model now with all these 3D elements in there. Should have a railway somewhere. Here it is. So we've got a bit of track in. Okay. Really looks a bit bright on the one there. Okay, so that's that. Let's start bringing in some extra stuff. So we're going to be working around this kind of area up here. So what I want to do is start putting in my constraint data. So let's have a look at some kind of DEFRA stuff, maybe National Grid and what have you. So I'll tell you what, we've got some water features here, surface water. Let's put them in. Surface water. Drag and drop that in. Tell it that it's water. Okay, you can put a style in there, but just default water is okay. Check it's on the national grid, and again drape it on the surface. Close and refresh. And that puts our surface water in. Okay. There's some nice tools. I do turn these off. So if you're using Infraworks, when you're doing your modelling, a bit like you would with AutoCAD, you wouldn't have all your fancy graphics on. You'd have them switched off. So I have them all switched off while I'm doing the modelling. But I wanted to show you the kind of water features. And you can see there the clouds are moving and the water's moving, and it's quite nice, really. The other thing that you can do in here is you can turn on a wireframe, and again, really heavy models. It's useful to be able to see how that model is built up. Just a tin surface, really. Okay, so that's our water. I do have a tidal area as well. Tidal water basically covers this area down the bottom there. So again, I'll just set it for water area. Drape it. Nearly did it myself there. Just click close and refresh. I'll just tidy up that area there. They split the data set to the Ordnance Survey into tidal, so you know this section here is tidal and that section isn't. I don't believe them for a minute. I think a lot will be tidal, but anyway. Okay, so we're getting there. So let's have a look at these constraints. So back to map district. Let's go away from Ordnance Survey. National Grid. Overhead line. So I do know in this model, if we have a look on this map, see that dashed line? Hopefully you can see that. That's a power line, and that runs across or pretty close to our site. So I just want to bring in some features from that. What Infraworks comes with, when I go to the draw, is a lot of these points of interest. Can you see? And there's kind of funky things like people. If you type energy, you can see you've got these pylons and all sorts of stuff you can add in. There's even wind turbines which are animated, so we're going to see a lot more animated things coming in soon. So what we can do is we can bring in the data that came from the national grid of these towers, and they should land in the relevant places there. So we need to tell you what it is. It's a 3D model, and you need to put it in something, so I put it in as furniture. And then you set a rule style, and the rule style can be this thing here, which is a big towery thing. Okay. Check it's on the national grid, put the source on, I want to drape it onto the surface. And then the other thing is that the data that comes from the national grid tells us how tall that tower is. So we can go into the table and scale it, the X, Y and Z, by whatever value is in there. And I do know that these towers that in the model are 50 meters, which is a bit tall for most of ours. So what we need to do is get a 50th of that and times that by the tower height. Okay, and you can just type it in. So 1 divided by 50 times tower height, which is the attribute that we're looking for. It's HEIG. There's only four thing on it. If we add that to each of the scales, so if I highlight that, copy it, scale X, scale Y, scale Z, these tower heights will match the actual height of the tower. And just to confirm that, I'm going to go to Common, and I'm going to have the description. You could concatenate these very easily, so you can have lots of them. You can go into here and you get an SQL one, and we can go in and we can concatenate, and there's one, look, concatenate status and tower height. So it said status, then a space, and then tower height. That's what I did last time. I'll just put the tower height in though, so that we can see that. We can pick that straight from here. There it is, tower height. Okay. I can't remember what I did, so I'll just double check it. Yep, great, that's okay. Table scale, close and refresh. We should get these towers in now. There they are. Okay. Anything in here you can build in AutoCAD and import it into here. So you could create your own towers. So this one's a little one, so it's probably not even going to be that style, to be honest, with it being so small. But if I select it, I can go to my properties and just have a look there. There's the scale and there's the tower height. So it's 12 meters, which is right, isn't it? Okay, the one thing I can't do is put cables in. I'm hoping that's going to come, but it's not there at the moment. There is a vector line for this, and what we could do is we could say, okay, let's put the vector line at our constraint level and just make it a pipe. So you can do that. It's a bit of a hack, to be honest, but if I was to put these overhead lines in, what we could do is we could say, okay, look, it's a pipe. We could style it. Oops, that was a style rule. We could style it as a red pipe, and we'll just use it as a constraint, if you like. In the geolocation, check it's on the British National Grid. Go to the source. We want to drape it. I don't want it on the surface. I want it above the surface. So if I go to the table, you can level offset it here, and we'll level offset it just by 12 meters. So it will follow the contours of the line, but be 12 meters up. Okay, let's check status. Close and refresh. So that gives me just a red line to say, look, this is the height you've got to work underneath. So you might find that useful, you might not. And there's our power line running throughout the land. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Right, okay, so I'm just checking my status, make sure everything is running. Yes, it is. So we're all okay. You can all still hear me, I presume. Just say yes if you can. I mean, type yes. Yes, you can. Excellent. Good. Thank you. Right, so let's have a look at some more stuff. Let's have a look at these constraint data now. So again, this is all data you can just get free. We'll go for some SSSI data. Just drag and drop it in. So this is an area that we want to cover in a certain colour, so we can identify that area. And these are called coverage areas. Okay, you can design your own coverage areas, or you can take information that you've already got and create a coverage area from it. We'll create a style rule. I created one earlier called SSSI. You could do it any of these that are inside there already, inside the software. But I created one for flood data, because you can guess what I'm going to put in next. And I created one for SSSI. Really, really simple. And again, we'll show you how to do that if you need to in another event. Geolocation, it's on the British National Grid, I'm happy with that. And the source, I definitely want to drape this on the extent. We could also add in a description, which it gives us the SSSI name. And you can add a tooltip as well, which gives you the SSSI name as well. Insert a property. and we want name, no, description. Okay, so we've used description is the SSSI name, and then you add the tooltip in to say it's going to be the description. So basically, if I select it, I should get a little hover tooltip. Okay. You can also add in a cost. So this is to do with if you've got Autodesk 360, you can do a thing called corridor optimization, where it'll automatically work out the corridor. And if you do want to say, okay, I'm going to include these polygons as part of my optimization, I want to avoid them. I don't want to draw a road through an SSSI, so that when the software is calculating which route is the most cost-effective way to get from A to B, it will avoid any SSSIs. Click OK, close and refresh. We should see some green patches appear in one. There's one up there. You see that one up there? Okay, and again, that's close to where we want to be working. There's another one here. And I did notice a weird one down here the other day. There it is. That's it there. Okay, so let me just close that panel up. Open again. So there's our SSSIs, and you can just keep building and building and building these data sets up so you've got a really good one. Let's go into the Environment Agency. Now, the Environment Agency have released 3 main data sets. There's a bucket load of other stuff, but in terms of flood stuff, they've got the flood warning areas, and then there's flood alert areas, and then there's another one. These are not the actual polygons for the actual flood data, for the 100-year, 30-year or whatever flood data, but they're a good guide for us. So when you're going for planning permission and stuff like that, you can say, look, am I in a flood warning area? As I say, this isn't the actual polygon. So here, I'm not going to call it a water area because it isn't flood, it's a coverage area. You could have called it a water area. It'll just make it pretty, to be honest, but I don't want to do that. I want to highlight it. So again, I'll use a style which is blue for obvious reasons, geolocation, and we'll drape it on the surface. Close and effect. You'd expect a flood warning area to be down this river here, wouldn't you? So let's see. We'll either see how good my GIS skills are or how good their data is, one or the other. Perfect. There we are. So all these buildings are in the flood warning area. That isn't to say that it is an area that is necessarily will flood. It's not the actual flood polygon, it's just the warning area. So again, this affects our, it's running a little slow because obviously I'm working over online, but there we are. This is going to affect our area that we're going to be working in as well. Okay, so that is how long we got. We've got 20 minutes. That's not. I'm not finished, by the way. What I want to do is just kind of show you the difference between how the Infraworks, which is the one that comes in with the suite, differs to the Infraworks 360 with the road module. So just as an introduction to these applications, I'm going to start with that. Okay. There's some nice little tools in here, so I can bookmark locations, for example. So there's some that I've bookmarked before. So if I go to my where I'm going to plonk a new road, what I want to do is just draw a road in here. So inside Infraworks, ignore that tool there, and that tool there. If you've got the suite, you won't have these 3 buttons. You'll just have this one here. But I can still draw roads. And here's all my roads. I've created some roads that are suitable here. So I've got a DMRB rural single road. And I'm just going to go and click in my drawing. Let me move that out of the way. So you select it there, click in your drawing. If you select the middle of the road, it'll make a junction for you, which is quite nice. And this is what we would consider a spline road to be. Okay, I've got no control over the way in which it draws it. It's just, look, this is it's not a design tool, it's just I'm going to draw a road there. Double click to finish, Press escape, and we've now got a road. So it's a really, really cool, very quick and very easy way of optioneering, if you like, of finding out different proposals. You can also do things like, as mentioned earlier, you can draw your own coverage areas. So I've got a coverage area here. So if I say this is a restricted area here, it's just to style that, we can then start designing our own areas. Okay, we can edit them as well, we can shape them, so we can say, well, actually I'm going to raise or lower that. Okay, it's going to make it go really weird, that. I'm going to put a big mound on it because I've flattened that area. Like so. Okay, so we can do an awful lot of stuff in there, and then we can start adding POIs. And last night I thought, actually, rather than me just showing you this, it'd probably be better. And in about an hour, I did a little housing estate, just using the Infraworks tools, nothing else. And what you can do here is you can create lots of different proposals. You can have proposal 1, which has this data set in and these models, and you can create proposal 2, which has this data set and these models, etc. And here we are. Here's my housing estate. Let me go to my finished proposal. And there we are. So these are just these spline roads using different types. We've got POIs of cars and people. These houses, that one was done in Revit originally and imported into Infraworks. We've got these other houses here. These were done in AutoCAD and imported into Infraworks. And you can see with that background data of the flood, the SSSIs and a few POIs, you can get a really, really nice model. Okay? So the next thing I wanted to show you was, I just wanted to show you a little bit the difference between 360 and Infraworks. We'll just call it Infraworks as opposed to 360 Infraworks, between roads and these spline roads. Okay. So what I'll do is I'm just going to go into my data sources, and I'll just get rid of that flood data. Just delete it. Oh, I'll tell you what I should have done. I'll create a new proposal and just call this one finished 2, so I don't delete my proposal in its entirety. Okay, so let's stick a road from here that crosses this river to this area here. So it's going to cross a railway line and the river. But this time I'm going to use the design tool because there's some quite significant differences. It looks very similar, and if I go in and start drawing a highway road, you can see it's very similar. DMRB, and I'll stick in a rural road. And again, I'll attach it to here, and this is where you'll start to see the differences. Okay, the first thing is I've got a design speed, so I can set the design speed. So if I set that for 110, zoom out. You see the curve? It's adding in the curve with transitions based on that design speed. At the moment, that's ASH2 design speeds, design standards, which is the American design standards. Remember, this is really just for optioneering, so at this stage that doesn't really matter. When we bring this road into our Civil 3D application, we'll be using our own design standards. So let's go clicking away, and I will take it over there to there. Double click to finish. Okay, so what we've got here is our design road panel here. So we've got the summary, we can give it a name and add notes to it. We've got attributes in there telling us what type of road it is, what speed it is, the fact that it's working to these ASH2 standards. Oh, I've just noticed it's in imperial. I should have changed that, shouldn't I, to metric. And then we've got our geometry information there, giving us the grade range. You can also edit the style, the roadside grading, so you can set a constraint on the roadside grading so it will not grade beyond a certain width. And you can also look at its profile. So there it is, there's its profile, so it's obviously not ideal. There is an optimization tool, so you can let Infraworks optimize it. I'm going to manually do it in this one just to show you what to do. We can add some vertical points in just with the right click, and then we can start placing it where we want. So I'll take it down this hill. Like so. What is nice, it shows where the water is as well, so we know we need to bridge that, which is quite good. I'll run it straight across that area there, but I'll take it up. And then I'll drop it back down here. Take it through there to about that level, and then I'll straighten where the bridge is likely to be, which is there, and then we'll put a drop down there. So if you're a Civil 3D user, yes, I know it's not Civil 3D, it's not meant to be. It's fantastic for just giving you some kind of very quick tools for designing your roads and options. Notice it's put a bridge in automatically. It's not any old bridge though. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bridge right the way across that road up to that hill there. So it's bridged the rail and the water. But if I select the bridge as opposed to the road, let me turn the profile off. If I select the bridge as opposed to the road, we could then roll it out further. Okay, and then properly design our bridge. There is the bridge tool here. Let me just go back into the profile. I want to raise it up a bit so that it crosses that road which is on that hill. You see it doing it live. So I'm going to raise it up there. So you can see it bridges that road. Now this is a design bridge, it's not just a visualization. If I start deleting these pillars, you see what happened there? Did you notice how it increased the thickness there? It's done the analysis on it and said, well, that's all well and good, Ian, if you do that, but you're going to need a bit of a stronger structure. So it will do a full design bridge. And the standards, let me move that over, watch it update the design. If I select this bridge, you can select your girder types. You can, let me just, I want to get to the full bridge. There's the bridge. Okay, so we can change the type of bridge. We can change it from a steel plate to a precast. And that's it, rebuilt the bridge accordingly. Again, you can use different design standards, so we've got quite a few in there. We've got the British design standards in there for the bridges. Let's go back to a steel plate. Okay, and yeah, that's the bridge design tool, which is really nice. And that's quite handy, that having that red line on there, isn't it? I've now decided that I'm actually going to need to change that. Okay, so you can do your conceptual design in there, your optioneering, work out what's what, and then you need to sell the job, and you can do that in either package. Let's just go back to the housing estate to start with. So I'll just add a bookmark here, and we'll just call this Bridge End, not the place, Bridge End I've written, and go back to my finished proposal, because what I want to do is turn on the high quality visualization, turn on the ambient occlusion, that gives you these touch shadows, maybe put the animation on as well so we can see the clouds, and then maybe you want to do a bit of sun analysis. Okay, at what time of the day, where do the shadows fall? Quite happy with that. Also, during the year, where will the shadows fall? Think about it, that was actually quite difficult to do before Infraworks. You needed a specialist tool for it. Revit users are saying, no, we've been able to do that. I'm aware of that, but you know, in AutoCAD it was kind of fairly specialist. So that's really useful. We can also create snapshots, so you can just get an image out at whatever resolution that you want to do, or you can render up the image and get a really high quality image out. Wish I'd not done that now. Oh, I'm okay. You can also do storyboarding as well, which is quite good as well. So let's go back to the that road that we just created. Okay, I'm just going to turn off the animation on the visual effects and the ambient occlusion. I'll leave the high quality on, turn off the animation. Okay, and if we went to our storyboard creator, you can just drive up the road, have a quick look, just add in the road. So create it from a design road, select your design road, that's the one, press enter and press play and drive down your road. So you can create these videos of your road and just check that it looks alright. And we can all be fairly confident here that I haven't designed that to a decent standard, but we could do all that in our Civil 3D, can't we? And this is where we're about to get garroted by the by that cable. Okay. If you did want to do a bit more, we'll be covering more in the next seminar. I realise I'm out of time now, so I won't cover any more. But you can do things like site distances and stuff like that. We'll be covering the bridge analysis and some water analysis in the next seminar as well. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. As I said at the beginning, if you have any questions at all, just email me. That would probably be the easiest thing, because I'm not actually looking at the board right now. Let me just have a quick look at it. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, I will pick the ones up that are on there as we when I've finished. But yeah, just email any questions or speak to your account manager, because obviously that might not be myself. The next events for your diary, we have a Graitec events page, so if you just go to the graitec.co.uk, it's still got the old address name in there, but that'll disappear soon. Go to graitec.co.uk/address/events and you'll see where they are. The relevant ones that I've picked out, I'm doing a more advanced version of what you've seen today, so I'll be showing you the extra tools in Infraworks and in Civil 3D on the 28th of April. Also, I don't know whether you're aware, if you're an Autodesk subscription customer, they are retiring Subscription Center and replacing it with something I'm led to believe cooler and easier, which can't be a bad thing, can it? That's on the 11th of March, 2 till 3, so by all means register for that. And if you're near any of these towns or fancy travel and fancy some free lunch and want to see the latest version, so we'll be showing off everything new that's in 2016 at our 2016 launch event from Tuesday the 14th of April at Newcastle right the way through to Thursday the 28th of May in Glasgow. In Glasgow and Edinburgh we're not going to be doing any, we're doing breakout sessions for Infraworks, for infrastructure, so we're not going to be doing them in Glasgow and Edinburgh. So if any of you from Scotland wishes to show you them, then what we'll do is we'll just come and show them individually. There's a diary problem in that case. So we can pencil you in and we'll come up and see you individually and show you what you missed. Okay, as I promised, there's our contact details. Andrea, who wasn't with me today, who normally would be with me, if you have any commercial questions, she's your gal, speak to her. Any technical questions, that's me. And finally, I'm going to leave you on this page for the next 5 minutes or so. These are the references for all of the data that I used today and some extra stuff, things that I've talked about. But again, if you have a specific need, then just let us know. Okay, thank you very much for your time. I shall leave it at that. Thank you.